Thank you, Mr. Casey Bucco. And if you have any questions, you can go to www.interiordesign.org.sg. Right, now the final speaker for tonight is our Chief Judge, Dr. Andrea Mina from RMIT, Melbourne, Australia. Dr. Andrea Mina.
Good evening, one. Good evening, all. To begin, I must extend my thanks to Casey for inviting me to be part of this award ceremony again this year. Last year I thought it was a big deal, but this year it's an even bigger deal, I think. And I'm very encouraged by the way that the thing is growing. I was told last night that one of the Chinese traditions is that as a teacher, your students become your children. Now, I've got a lot of children, but I have a very special child here in the audience, and that's Casey, and I congratulate you, Casey, on the way that this whole thing has been run, and I congratulate you on the way that the vision for this thing is expanding. You talk about an international competition. It is an international competition, the student competition. And it's wonderful that Singapore sees fit to be as generous as to invite others to participate, rather than closing in on itself and isolating itself. I think that that's a remarkable thing and a wonderful achievement to have actually got participants from outside of this country. And yes, there aren't many international design awards in this region at all for students. The thing I found particularly interesting was the combination of both student and industry awards. And we had the privilege of spending a day looking at all of this stuff. Now, my day was made even more pleasurable by the company of wonderful people. And you didn't put together a lightweight body of assessors. Now, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back for being a big guy. I don't think I am a big guy, I'm just another one of them. But we had the president of Architecture Institute, Interior Design Institute, Planning Institute, the Design Business Chamber, and editors from magazines. Now these are people who are at the head, at the top of their professions, at the top of their game. And it was really interesting that an editor and a planner and an architect and an interior designer could be as close to each other in their assessment of the work. That was really intriguing. In most instances, there was a very small range in the assessments. We did have particularly pleasant moments for me when it started to get heated. And there was disagreement. And there were calls from particular people who were only interested in promoting good design above design that is eye candy, basically. I shouldn't say worthless, but I should say of less value culturally than certain designs. I found those moments particularly interesting because people were prepared to stand up and say, hey, you can't do what you want to do because you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. What you need to do is promote the best design. And we had the arguments, and it was fantastic. It all sorted itself out. Now, I have a particular I have a particular interest in design because I teach design. I was very interested in the student work, and in a way disappointed as well, because I think the students, it becomes a common thing, and it's a common thing here in Singapore, Malaysia, Australia. The students are great at coming up with ideas, and that's where it stops. And the understanding, or their understanding, is that that's what design is about. An idea, a couple of words, and that's it. You know? And the rest you can leave to somebody else to do. The converse applies with the industry. I was a bit disturbed in that, in terms of the industry work, there was no discussion at all about what drove the projects conceptually. However, there was a great illustration of good design. And at that point, we come to an understanding that design is about composition. It's about the use of materials in an intelligent way. It's about proportion. It's about all of those classical things, which then starts to raise incredible doubts within one's own mind about the value of ideation. And where does this demand for a conceptual approach to the work fit in? If we get back to a situation which is about classical things, and we've then moved right back into the 18th, 19th century. So for me, it's an interesting dilemma. It really is, as to how we can get our students to understand design from ideation all the way through to execution. Because you don't just make details. You don't just pull details off of the shelf. You design details. You design the connections of materials. You design the way spaces work, etc., etc. In fact, once it gets handed over to the contractor designs an approach to the construction of the work. Design runs right the way through. Now, how do we get students to understand that? And how do we get the profession to understand that through the inclusion of a conceptual approach to work, the work can be elevated and it can resonate and it can develop the culture, it can promote a better way of living, etc. I don't know. These are issues that we will wrestle with for a long time, I imagine. I'm an idiot. I didn't write notes and I've forgotten certain things. And I've got a horrible feeling that there's something that I wanted to say which I haven't said. But probably it's a good thing that I do stop now. But I want to point out another one thing in terms of the chair. The way that this whole thing has been organized is summed up by his response to making a speech which says, I don't want to take up anybody else's time. What an amazing thing. I congratulate you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'd love to be back again.